Oh, hey, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. So, what's your take on reservations? Why do you like them so much?
Well, hold on. There's a fine line that you kind of have to walk between outright abolishing them and just having native people be assimilated into the broader colonial culture, and then maintaining them in their shitty state. Because reservations are only good because they maintain some semblance of what would the word be? Self determination in a way, and preserve the culture, although they also do a lot to destroy the culture because of how economically harmful they are. So there still needs to be that level of like difference between native nations and the rest of the country, like be it Canada or the US,
Hmm.
while also like providing economic support to reserves to actually like build jobs. That's because that's the main reason there's just no jobs, very little infrastructure, shit like that. Like sometimes there's not even clean drinking water. Like there needs to be the material conditions to allow people to thrive.
Okay. Do you think self-determination is inherently good?
Yes.
Why?
Well, like I don't know. You want me to like morally justify it?
Well, well, yeah. When we're saying whether something's good or bad, we would be talking about morals, right? Hello?
Well, I mean, like what right do other nations have to say what goes on
Well, I mean,
within mine?
you said self-determination is like inherently good. So I'd be curious of like why you think it's inherently good. Do you think it always leads to good outcomes?
Well, no, not necessarily, but I think that is definitely ideal. We should always strive for.
Okay. So
like
if
like for example, I don't know, like a fascist could use the same self determination kind of propaganda, but then go and like try to genocide all the white people within our national territory, which I would wholeheartedly disagree with. That's terrible.
okay,
But like,
so, so if self-determination led to like say the death of a people, like so not the death of like other people that they were like asserting self-determination as in like I have the self-determination to genocide these other people, but their self-determination led to their deaths. Would you think that was good?
do you mean like if the people trying to achieve self determination were?
If the people self-determine themselves into death is what I mean. So like so the fact that we like say we left a people alone, and then they ended up like just by their own by their own efforts or whatever actions they did ended up destroying themselves. What do you think that was a good thing?
Well, no, but I think they should still have the right to do those
Wait,
things.
so
I
you
don't
said
think we should
it's not a good
intervene.
thing. So what
Yeah,
do you
like
mean
that
it's not?
that that specific case is not a good thing, but
Oh,
we
so it's not
there should
always
still
good.
be.
So it's
No,
not
it's not
inherently
always
good.
good.
Oh, so it's
Yeah,
not
well, yeah,
inherently
actually,
good.
yeah. No, yeah, I guess yeah, I kind of I guess a little misspoke a little there.
Okay, sure, that's fine. So, in what cases do you think it is good?
In any case where it isn't used as like a justification for violence against other nations, because I believe
Oh,
I believe in nations working together to like all kind of defend their the self determination of their nation as well as others. Like so,
sure.
it's almost like an internationalist nationalism, if that makes any sense.
So, what do we do if we knew? So, this is a hypothetical. Let's say we knew that someone's a group's self determination would lead them to all dying. What do we do in that case? Would you say we'd be justified in intervening?
Do you mean like say like well, it's like what do you mean? It's because like self determination takes many different what the word be forms depending on what ideology utilizes it. It's like you got to be a bit more
Well,
specific.
self determination would generally be the idea that a people has a right to like determine what happens within their lives, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Um. So say just say they chose to like live away from like a certain group of people, and then they ended up destroying themselves in the process, and we knew this was going to happen. Would we be just in intervening in this case?
I don't think so, but that's kind of a weird hypothetical. Like I know we're talking like vague moral hypotheticals, and I'd say yeah, it'd be immoral to intervene in that case, but like I don't know, like what are you just talking about? Like a whole people group just like up and I don't know, like moving into the like what are you? I don't
Well,
know what you're talking about.
well,
Like
sure. So it'd be an extreme case, but so I'm trying to find like what the line is for you. So in some cases you say it's just, in other cases you say it's like it's all that's just to actually intervene in their self determination. In other cases you're saying it's unjust. So I'm trying to figure out what is the line for you.
um, I would say to if a nation wanted to destroy themselves, I'd say just morally, I'd be okay with that. I don't think we should intervene in that, although I don't think that really happened. And then the
Oh,
case where you should intervene is when like people use self determination as a propaganda tool for violence against other nations.
oh, so let's be clear. So if a people were to self determine themselves into destruction, you'd be okay with that.
Yeah, like if they literally just without yeah, like if the yeah. I mean, I don't
So
know how
only in
that
the case of
happened.
like they intended it. So if it's unintentional, you would say we should intervene.
Well, like I don't know what you're talking. Like you just talk. Like I don't know. Like what nation just like goes and kills itself? I don't understand.
So, okay, we can we can just get into the actual conversation then. So I don't know much about Canadians. I've heard it's a similar case, but with Native Americans, these people seem to be pretty fucked. They have the highest poverty rates of any racial group. They have the highest alcoholism rates of any racial group. 11.7% of deaths of Native Americans are alcohol related.
Oh yeah,
So it seems like
yeah.
these people are
I
pretty
know those
fucked.
stats. Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. It's the same up here in Canada. Although we just have like smaller reservations. The U.S. gives like big this big chunk to like the whole tribe, whereas we have a whole bunch of little ones.
Hmm. So, in the case of like these people being segmented from the rest of the population, them having much worse outcomes in general, why
Well,
should we allow
hold on.
reservations? Huh?
I don't mean like separate as in like I don't know, just like cordoned off into these little rural areas and not like economically integrated. I just mean like for example, if you just abolish reservations tomorrow, everyone would move out. They would move to a city. The language would probably die. There'd be like a lot of cultural disconnect because I'm someone from a reserve, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a city right now, and I know a lot of natives who were born in this city, and they have like a large, even just one generation removed, they have a fairly large cultural disconnect from like the Ojibwe culture than say I do.
Sure. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with like a culture dying? Because cultures have died like throughout millennia. So many cultures have died. There are more cultures that have died that actually exist today. So,
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean we need to like aid in the process of
oh, I'm not
doing that.
saying we need to aid it, but I'm saying like why should we preserve it? Like why is it a good thing to preserve culture?
Diversity. It'd be really boring if everyone just spoke the same language, ate the same food.
Oh, okay. Well, so regardless of like us trying to preserve culture or not, like there's going to be different cultures. So I'm not saying that like we're attempting to genocide all the cultures or anything, but as in like it's not necessarily something that like we should value. Like we shouldn't value like someone having like their own culture in and of itself. We can value like multiculturalism generally, and not purposely like just go in and attempt to destroy cultures. But culture doesn't seem like it'd ever be a thing that'd be worth preserving over like say anything meaningful. Like the fact that again that Native Americans would have very high alcohol. You know, you already agreed to the stat, so
Well, yeah,
all those memes.
but also a lot of the contribution to those statistics is that loss of culture, and also
Oh, can you prove
it's not
that?
really, it's not even. Well, I mean, yeah, like there's like, I don't have like a study for it, but yeah, like certainly the alcoholism and a lot of the suicide comes from that.
Oh yeah, sure. How? Fuck, I gotta go. Blah, can you take this over? Oh, they were asserting that that culture, the loss of culture, led to the high suicide rates, high alcoholism rates, high poverty rates, blah blah blah.
Oh, can you prove that? Like, how do I know this?
I've never seen like a study of it before, but it's pretty anecdotal. But that's kind of how a lot of things go with I don't know, just native things in general. Not a
Well,
lot of
I,
like
I can't really
research
engage
on
with
it, I
your
guess.
anecdote though. Like, I don't even
Yeah, I
know if
know.
you. Yeah, yeah. Um, so like, is there any evidence at all that I can verify, that I can like look upon and actually engage with? So like non anecdotes.
Well, hold on. Let me see. I'm literally just gonna have to like I don't know. Also, I don't like having these like petty fucking moral debates where it's like, oh, how do you prove culture is worth pursuing? Like, I don't even give a fuck if it. I really don't feel like I should need to justify it.
Well, wait, you kind of need to. Well, you definitely need to if you're gonna make any sort of moral claims about like what we should do in regards to the natives or any group of people. It may be like boring or not something that you are interested in, but something that you have to do if you want to engage in politics.
Well, it's like, what harm does preserving it like do anyways? Like, even if say, like, I don't know, like, what is the harm? Like,
Like,
literally, all I want would be just like better funding for like language classes in school. Like, I'd rather talk like actual material outcomes rather than just like, oh, how can you justify preserving culture? Like, I don't fucking know.
cool. So in terms of like the harm done by preserving it, it's that these people live horrible like lives generally. Like they have very bad outcomes. And sure, we can fix that
Hold
through
on.
what?
Hold on. Are you asserting that that like native culture is what leads to the poverty rates on reservations? That's like
No,
actually
that's not what
ridiculous.
I'm saying.
That's kind of what you said.
Oh, wait,
You
how?
said
No,
the
How?
it
Can you
isn't.
harm
explain
you
it?
said the harm done.
It isn't.
You literally just said the harm from preserving these cultures is like the poverty and conditions on reservations, which is
Wait,
just
it's from preserving the
not true.
reservation specifically.
Well, yeah, preserving reservations is bad. I'm just saying, like, you can't just outright
Okay.
abolish them, but you also can't just like keep them as is. But there's like, it's I don't know.
Okay, so you think that that we shouldn't keep reservations?
No, not in the long run at all.
Okay.
And definitely not under the same like legal system it's under.
Okay, sure. So, uh, how long do you think until we should get rid of them?
Well, it really just depends upon like the politics of, I guess, the U.S. or Canada, whatever reserve you're talking about. Because like I said, we're like you wouldn't just be able to abolish them under what we have right now, because it would just everyone would move out of them, and it just turn into a ghost town, and it would lead to essentially just the wholesale assimilation into broader American culture.
So,
Again, this is the thing. I don't want to have like petty debates on why
wait,
everyone
this is not
assimilating.
petty. Wait, like if I ask you, oh hey, should I rape this person, and you say no, and I tell you why, you're just gonna tell me, well, that's a petty moral argument.
Yes, rape is the same as
No, wait, I'm
just
asking you.
like,
Answer the question.
well, like I don't even know what like you want me to say. Like how like it's just bad. I don't know. I like having cultural diversity. I'd rather have as much languages as possible. I don't like cultures dying.
Okay, cool. So if you have like
That
literally
sucks.
so little backing for your moral claims, that makes you incredibly ineffective at actually convincing people, because they will eventually get you to like, okay, so why should I care about this and such, and also it makes it so that you have no real foundation for any of your claims and for why you should claim that they are true, that we should follow this.
Well, how are you supposed to? You can't like prove something like that. It's literally just like if you give a shit or not. It's not like something you can convince someone on. It's either you don't give a shit about cultural diversity or you do.
Wait, sure, but the reasons why you do or you don't matter in regards to that. Do you disagree?
Well, I'd say there's a lot of negatives from not having cultural diversity. Just generally having like an ideology of cultural hegemony leads to a
Sure.
lot of
Sure, so we aren't
far-right
arguing for like a complete cultural homogeneity. We aren't arguing for that at all. We're just saying, oh hey, why should we try to preserve like this specific culture when its culture is like, if we don't do anything to it too much, it's gonna be diverse naturally, especially in America where a lot of immigrants come in.
Well, an argument for preserving culture would be the destruction of culture is historically linked to just the material oppression of Native people.
Wait, we can. Just because it's linked doesn't mean that if I were to like not preserve this culture, that therefore they're going to be materially fucked. I can just like support them like materially, or like give them the same opportunities as everyone else, and all that, and not destroy their culture. Just leave it like, oh, okay, I don't care if it changes or anything like that.
That's the hold on. What are your like just suggestions?
You roboted a lot there. Repeat that.
Oh, like what are your just general like political positions, like mainly economically?
Oh, economically? Oh, co-ops are good from the data. We need more data though, so we should give preferential loans to that. Nuclear seems like a good seems like a good energy source right now. When it comes to how politically feasible it is. Immigration good. You said specifically to economics?
Oh no, hold on. That's all I needed. All right, I agree with all
Okay.
that. So like the main problem, I guess, with the destruction of culture would be if you think it would be good for Native people to move to the city and work for a wage under capitalism, which is what the destruction of culture facilitates.
Wait. Do you think that working for a wage is better than living in the reservations? Generally,
I would rather live in the reservation and know my language than to like live to be like even a billionaire living in the city and not know a word.
Okay, cool. So you want them to keep being materially distraught, like living in the reservations, instead of giving them
I
like
never
further
said that.
opportunities. Well, but
Like I said,
that's what your position
this isn't a
entails.
dichotomy. No, I was just using that to show how much like I guess I prioritize those things personally. I'm not saying we should like like I said, it's not a dichotomy between outright abolition of reservations and then cultural assimilation into capitalism, and then just like keeping them as is. Like there's it's not a false dichotomy. It's not a dichotomy. That's false.
Wait, sure. So, like, when I present you with the option of, oh, hey, should we like leave the reservations as they are, or should we like integrate them more into American society? When we're talking about whether or not we should integrate natives more into American society, why is like we are excluding all other things to figure out like whether natives should be integrated into like American society.
Wait, but then you're implying being integrated into American society equals like better.
Wait,
Like
no,
that.
no, no. Wait, I'm asking
No, sorry,
you.
materially
It's
better.
it's
Like
posed as
better
a
off.
question for a reason. It's posed as a
Oh, and I
question
answered
to
that.
like
Yeah.
yeah, sure, and you
Okay,
think that at the same time that we shouldn't m- we shouldn't like have them be materially distraught, and also that it's better for them to not be in like the to work for a wage and have better material circumstances. Um, yeah. So what would be your solution then to the whole reservation problem, if you consider it a problem?
sorry, infrastructure and economic support for reserves that aren't on like really shitty land, because a lot of them are placed on terrible land where the sometimes the water supply is poisoned, and it's just generally swamp land that's useless for any sort of like farming. There's no resources. There's no like job industry there. So some of them would need to just be like moved somewhere better, where there's like farmland
Okay,
or there are
cool. We
mines.
can do this without reservations. Like, why do we need to also? Well, would you say that we would also need to keep reservations in that process?
When I say like keep reservations, I mean as in like keep them as one community, not like under, I guess, like the legal definition of a reservation.
So you want it to be like the Amish?
Well, no, like because like we still have technology. I just mean
Oh,
like all right.
just like
I guess
as a
I
community.
yeah, like I want reservations to essentially just become towns.
Yeah.
What I don't want is just them to be abandoned and for people like to move into the city.
Okay, sure. So when we're talking about reservation, we're talking about like the legal definition of a reservation. We aren't talking just about, oh, hey, them having a community. Like, sure, they can have that so long as it doesn't worsen their material circumstances too much. In but like when we're talking about reservations, we aren't talking about them just having a community. So in
All right,
terms
yeah.
of like the legal definition of a reservation,
Oh
would you
yeah,
say that?
wholeheartedly. The reservations need to be abolished. Although actually, I can't really talk about the American ones. I don't know how that works, but I do know how they work in Canada. Here we essentially have apartheid. Actually, there's an Indian Act which governs specifically status Indians and no other Canadian, and that's what like legally establishes reservations. I think the Indian Act needs to be abolished and replaced with something much better.
Potleaf, could you talk a little bit more? This is really interesting to me. So the reservations in Canada, they're on non-arable land. So that's like huge. Like they can't even farm the frickin' land. That's big.
Yeah, most of the time that's how it is. And even if they can, like even if the land is arable, there's not enough capital there for farms to start. Or like farms capable of competing with like the highly like industrialized farms in the area.
Yeah, so they were like they're like designed to fail basically right from the
Yes.
beginning. Yeah.
Yep.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, so since you're against like the legal conception of a reservation, that was like the main contention that I thought we had. But if it's not a contention, then I don't think we will really disagree much, except on like whether or not we should preserve native culture, or just let it fizzle out, or do whatever it does naturally. If you want to have that argument.
Well, I think if you just naturally let it do its thing, like it would come back. Like it is kind of already coming back to an extent.
Wait, what do you mean? Because when I say naturally do its thing, I mean let's integrate natives into American society and let it go where it may.
Oh, well then, yeah, no, that would lead to. I mean, there'd probably be like still some preservation of it, but yeah, that would lead to a lot of cultural destruction.
Yeah, we would usually call it just cultural change. So, I mean, like, would you consider cultural destruction because we no longer speak like the Brits did back in the 1600s? That now we speak a lot different of a language?
No, because that's
The British still
I'm-
exist.
yeah, like that. Yeah, I don't. I was Old English changed due to like conquest, or did it just naturally evolve, with just people in England eventually speaking differently?
It naturally evolved, and we are talking about like naturally evolving things.
All right,
When
then that is not cultural destruction.
okay, so why is it that
Although,
you go?
or because pursuing a policy of integration into American society is purposely that's purposely causing the destruction of culture. Like that isn't just it naturally evolving.
Do you think that it's always bad? Like if we had a culture that glorified, and I'm not saying that this is the Native American culture, but like if we had a culture that glorified rape and objectified women heavily, um, do you think that it would be good to forcibly change it, which would fall under cultural destruction, under your definition?
No. Like within the society, progressive aspects should be supported.
Wait, sure, yeah, like purposefully changing culture.
Well, no, that's not necessarily. No, purposely changing, like that's not. That's just supporting progressives from that area. Like it's not.
Wait, what do you mean by
It's not like you're going in there and like opening up schools
wait,
and like
wait.
forcing people to go to said schools. I don't know.
Well, yeah, like if there were such a culture within the U.S., like there were like such an enclave were to form, I would want schools that were to teach like misogyny and like pro-feminism stuff too, and that would be like forcibly changing that culture.
Well, no, but you're talking about another nation going into another nation and then changing it. I'm talking about supporting people to change their own nation from within,
So
which is something that
no.
happens a lot.
So no, the hypothetical is about like just a bunch of immigrants of a specific culture come in and then they form enclaves. Not saying that this happens like often in real life or that this is the natives or something, but like if some like large group of immigrants came into the U.S. with a culture with a very very sexist culture, I would say that it would be good to actually put into like the school programs near the schools that those enclaves are, to put in like more feminist, I guess, agenda or curriculum, however you want to call it.
All right, yeah, I agree with that, but that's slightly different.
Wait, so what do you mean by like purposefully changing a culture?
Well, you were talking about an immigrant group to the U.S., whereas initially I thought you meant like a nation, almost like invading another nation and then changing its culture forcefully. That's what I thought you meant, but you're just talking about like an immigrant group
Yeah, like
or like an
culture.
enclave, which is different.
They're both, yeah, sure. It's
Hold-
different in
Blah
some
Blah
sense.
enjoys
All right,
manufacturing
hold on.
attention.
Okay, I'll use your example. All right, so say yes, the like sending that immigrant group to schools to, I guess, reform their culture is good, but it is not right to go to like the country where they came from and then like forcefully change it through cultural genocide, which would be like the way you'd have to kind of do that.
Wait, why would that be wrong then? Like, I assume that we both want less misogyny in the world, right?
Oh yes, yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that we should achieve that like as quickly as possible with some like reasonable stipulations.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, we don't need to, like, say invade, like, some really sexist Middle East country to change it into, like, this progressive utopia. I think that can be done from people within, and just them having support, and not having to deal with, like, a far-right dictator coming into power.
Sure. Sure. So at least you agree that things within the U.S. should, like we can change those, right?
Well, there's a difference between Native Americans in the U.S. and an immigrant group. Like, you know, like, yeah. I know you weren't talking about Native, but like, it's
Sure. So like there are differences, sure. But like I'm focusing specifically on the aspect of having certain cultural attitudes that I would consider harmful. And maybe they aren't specific to like that culture. Maybe not, but I would want to like change that culture to have better cultural attitudes.
yeah. It just depends on how you do it, though. Are you supporting progressive aspects within the culture, or are you just like literally just like, I don't know, like culturally genociding them? You know, like there's like there are differences between these things.
Sure.
You
So
can
you
change
keep.
culture.
Sure. So what is cultural genocide?
For example, have you ever heard of the residential school system?
No, not
All right,
unless it
so
goes
it
by
was
another name.
the U.S. uses a different name, but they're essentially the same thing as here in Canada. They were schools set up during like the late 1800s after Canada. What was the word again? It got rid of its policy of outright extermination and decided to adopt a policy of assimilation. And the way they did this was by setting up a school in which the children would like live there. That's why it's called residential school, because the school would be their residence. And they'd forcibly take children from native parents and send them to these schools where any sort of expression of their culture would be like penalized. Like you'd be like beaten, raped, branded, even like they'd like a hot iron, shit like that.
Sure. So, like within the U.S., we have laws so that you will be going to like a school designated like by the district that you're in. Like you don't have much choice in the matter. You have some choice, but not too much. And so like we can have the schools that are going to that native kids are likely going to go to. We can like put more of a progressive agenda on whatever issues like are specific to natives and just like do the any usual like progressive spin on curriculums.
Oh well, yeah, I agree with that. I don't want like a segregated society. I just want support for like native culture to thrive. And I guess, well, I mean, my end goal, to be honest, my end goal is having like a completely independent, not like a state because I'm an anarchist, but like I don't know, like a government, I guess.
A commune,
For
a native commune.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
I mean, but like covering like the entire area
Right.
of like pre-colonial Ojibwe land.
Hey, Blah, let me ask you something. You would be opposed to cultural genocide as it's understood under the UN's rules, right?
Oh yeah, cultural genocide like is a thing. Like it's not just something I made up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
know
like
the. You go,
I
Bart.
am also opposed to cultural genocide. I think I'd probably be more on Chief Potleaf's side as far as preserving culture goes, because I have a greater regard for tradition. But so long as we're not doing a genocide, so long as we're not doing a cultural genocide, then that should be okay. So like for instance, the residential school system, very bad. But our school system in America, we have a public school system, so everybody goes to public school. So would you be opposed to that? So we are not giving special treatment. We're not giving special education to the natives. We're not giving them anything additional, but they're in the same school system as everybody else, kind of a thing. Is that something that you would be opposed to?
Oh no, I wholeheartedly agree with going to the same schools. I think that's actually a good thing. I actually really hate how culturally segregated Native people are because it leads to a lot of racism, like just that othering. But one thing I would want is like support for native language classes. Like so, say the tribe in that region would be able to take a language class in which they would learn their language, and where it wouldn't be like I don't like
Yeah.
so for example in my area we did have an Ojibwe class, but it was horribly underfunded. They put us in like a back like storage room closet type thing. Those and the teachers most of the time don't even speak the language. They just like they kind of like almost learn along with the kids. They just like follow the curriculum. So there needs to be like more investment in actually making those classes just as quality. Like for example, we also have French as a language class, and I want them to be like on par with each other, with not one being favorited.
Do you speak any languages, Chief?
I don't speak my language fluently, although I do know enough words that like I use it kind of often just for like items and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'll say like hello in my language.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Or
I
like
read that like there's a lot of stuff that you can't really translate exactly into English from native languages, like stuff to do with the land and the environment and how you guys work there.
yeah, well those are kind of just things that like I guess linguists in the tribe like need to figure out. My language has been like fairly decently translated to English, and we even have like we have a system of making new words for things like say I don't know like something that like wouldn't be in North America, so that we wouldn't have had a word before, but like we have a system creating new words.
Oh, Chief Potleaf, Piper, or one of our friends, wants you to answer the question: why can't natives just be like Jews?
Wait, wait.
Are you
Explain how? In
are
like in
you
what
happy,
way?
Piper? Are you happy? I asked the
No,
question.
no. You asked it in the worst possible way.
Do you mean like we should stop being a poor minority and start being like a bougie
No. I
minority?
think what he meant
No.
is, why can't you go into the Middle East and genocide of people and take the land for yourself?
I like it.
I would say the comparison between Israel and like the Jews to Native Americans is a little false. I'd say if you're going to compare it to the Israel-Palestine conflict, like we would be the
Wait,
Palestinians.
do you hate fun? It was just a meme, my dude. Don't worry
I
about it.
know.
He was
Hold on.
Piper.
I'm just like
Piper was talking.
sometimes memes do portray an underlying meaning.
It's true.
No. I
This is true.
promise you, it is
This
just
is true.
Yeah, yeah.
Piper's point was like there's cultural Jews that they don't have, like in the United States, for instance. There are Jewish communities, even in perfectly secularized cities. They tend to congregate around a synagogue or a friend group. So he's kind of curious what you think about that. Would that be something that the native culture would eventually turn into?
Well, I just generally have qualms with like mass urbanization, but like no, I'm perfectly fine with like native communities within the city, and there is a lot of them that exist. And for that, I would say I just want native communities in the city to have more support so that they don't, so they actually they can reconnect with their roots a little bit more.
Wait, Piper, I thought I asked it that time. I'm sorry. What did I miss? Like, you want me to use the word diaspora specifically? I'm not sure what you mean, basically.
Okay, so what Piper means is Piper wants to know why don't Native people just continue to practice their culture outside of the reservation, sort of like how Jews practice their culture outside of Israel.
I would say I think well, one thing is the language. For example, you can't if you only were only to speak say Ojibwe. That's my my tribe. If you were only speak Ojibwe, you wouldn't be able to get no job in the city. Like, so you were materially incentivized to learn either English or French, which I think is good generally. But,
Yeah,
like,
what's wrong with
sometimes-
that? You can still speak it in your home. So a lot of so some people in Jewish homes speak Yiddish, for example.
Yeah, I mean that's actually, that would make it even more like the current like sort of societal standards that Jewish people hold themselves to. So they learn things like Yiddish is the example Jim gave, but I know like for a lot of Jewish people they also learn and preserve the Hebrew language.
Esperanto is the language of
Hey,
my
can you fill it up? Yes. Hold on.
So you could still learn your language from your parents, and you wouldn't necessarily like lose out on knowing the language, but you'd also necessarily, if you want to like sort of exist in like the cultural landscape of like the U.S. and Canada now, it would make sense to also know English.
Yeah, I agree with knowing English, but I'm saying like the incentive to learn English leads to like your children just knowing English or something like that. I actually don't know why Native people don't do the same thing as Jews. I wish we would, but like I'm thinking maybe because there's less like
Please don't be like the Jews.
native like native institutions within like our communities. Like, so our communities in the city, like for example, they have like their shit, what it's called, their version of the church or shit. I forgot it. It was just said too. I'm stupid.
Synagogue?
Yeah, synagogue. There you go. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot that.
No problem.
So yeah, so like stuff like that, and also they just have like even just shops, just businesses. They have institutions to, I guess, unify around, whereas Native people typically don't have that.
Almost all of these institutions were bootstrapped by them though, so they weren't like state funded or anything along those lines. This is just something they did. Like they pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, so to speak. Now this is like easier said than done. But in the case of like the history of the Jewish people in the diaspora, this is like they overcame a lot to do this. So I think it's like it's perfectly feasible that the native people could do something similar.
Yeah, we could talk about Jews' wealth right now, but like when they actually came here, they were very poor people.
Yeah, exactly. And when they were in like basically when they were anywhere, they were pretty poor people who were like usually pretty oppressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they still managed to like retain their culture through that.
I actually
you.
really don't know, to be honest. Like I'm actually trying to I'm like brainstorming reasons as to why it isn't similar.
Well, the raw number of Jewish people.
Now I think like so Jews are slightly like tied to some land, like they have religious land that they're tied to, but it doesn't seem to be as much as some native people. Because I know some native people they have a specific tree or specific water source that is like holy to them. I don't know if holy would be the correct word. But you get the point.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be why.
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe.
There were just I'm pretty sure that there were just more Jews than there are of any particular native nation.
Oh, what? Yes, what? You're right. Yeah, because it's not like a homogenous group, while Jews are. Yeah.
And the Jews were already pretty well spread throughout. Like they were pretty well spread throughout Europe, even prior to the thing called the diaspora.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because all Jews have at least something in common, even though they may be like they may be from different countries or whatever, but they still have like a lot in common, like all their holidays and stuff like that. While they're native tribes that have nothing in common with each other other than just being colonized.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd probably be it. The tribes just aren't large enough to really do that to the same degree that Jews do it.
That makes sense actually. Yeah, given that there's like not a common language among native peoples or whatever, it's like preserving a language
There's
would be
nothing
very
in
very
common,
difficult. Yeah.
And since I am in fact reading, as I say almost every day, I am reading the bread book. So like the idea of having like interlinked but independent communes that have their own character, like that is awesome. I want that so bad. So like like individual communes that are more or less independent, but they freely trade with one another. Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
I just want like
And to do that, you'd have to have arable land and stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, Blah, you still here?
And there's something
Yes.
in particular. In particular, I can talk about like what we could do with reservations specifically in my part of Ontario. There's a lot of reservations in northern Ontario, which is like southern Ontario would be like Toronto and like Ottawa. Like so, all the big cities are in southern Ontario, and there's not too much natives down there either. And down south, most of the land is federal or privately owned. Whereas up here, the vast majority of the land in northern Ontario is crown land, which essentially means it is owned by the Queen or the Crown, and it is administered by the provincial government. And it is rented by mining companies, which take the resources from it, and then kind of just like dip, and then it can be used for camping. So it's pretty much unused land. Like only really big corporations can afford to rent crown land. So it essentially just sits unused. And this is the vast majority of northern Ontario, and it's the vast majority of like my tribe's land in this area. And so if large portions of this crown land were given back to or like native people, you could have like the reserves on unarable land just completely like up and move to these new areas within crown land where a mine could be opened up or farms can be set up or something like that. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be like some economic backbone.
Where did the
'Cause,
debate end with abolishing the reservations? Blah. Blah, you there?
Yeah. The
Oh,
end
wait,
goal
I had my
would
mic
be to
muted.
abolish the reservations.
Okay, yeah, so
Wh-
they were the way that they were defending reservations was not in the sense that we understand it as like the legal construct, but as like natives having a community.
Okay, well, sure. So they can, just like everyone else in their ideal society, they can institute their own community.
I just don't want like the complete cultural assimilation of my people and like the loss of our language.
Oh, so this is kind of
I-
something I'm curious about. So Chief Potleaf, is that like is that name kind of feels weird to say? So Chief Potleaf, you're
Stop being racist, and
I
holy
know
shit.
it feels like I'm saying something racist. So why should we value the preservation of cultures? Like hypothetically, if it was like there was like a no colonization from Europe, and like the Americas were just sort of like, or even just North America alone was just sort of like the only country in the world that exists, and it's sort of like continued throughout time. Necessarily, culture would still change, and likely most of the huge diversity in like in native culture would shrink to something much less diverse as sort of like as people traveled more and people communicated with each other more and people like industrialized and gained like new modes of travel and telecommunication. So why if that would be the natural course of culture anyways, and all culture naturally will like blend and melt together and eventually disappear. Why should we seek to preserve any culture? And I don't see a reason to value it.
I don't really know how to answer that one, to be honest. Well, yeah, all
Is it about
cultures
preservation,
eventually die, but
or
it's like
is it about
it doesn't necessarily
autonomy?
mean you need to like I guess not like pursue the destruction, but allow the destruction to happen. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like sure they'll
so-
all die, but like you could keep it around for a little bit longer.
So this
you're
is
cool
either a
with,
might. This either is a might makes right argument. So like he wants to have his language taught, alongside French and English.
Oh, that
and
sounds
then,
kind of
course,
artificial.
So
Wait, I don't want to
that's
force
what.
that on people.
So then the argument could be made. Well, why not just learn French? Because French is far more useful than this language. Well, it's only more useful. English and French are only more useful because of the might of the French and English cultures. So
Bart,
either we're going might makes right with this, or we're just saying that culture is something that individuals choose to perpetuate.
So Bari would if the most common language was like the native one, then I would say that like yeah, that clearly that's the one we should be teaching in school. But
Yeah,
given
and that's a
yeah,
might makes right
well,
argument.
it's not because it's still about like it's still about improving people's lives at the end of the day. So it's not about might makes right. It's just sort of like might plays a
Yeah,
role.
Bar, do you realize you can come to the same conclusion with two different arguments, or three different arguments, or infinite different arguments, right? It's not necessarily a might makes right argument. You could get there through that, but you don't. You don't have to.
Yeah.
No,
So
you.
Okay.
so like in the same way that I'd say it's like it's dumb to break to like do petty crime because you'll be in jail and thus you won't be able to do good. You'll be stuck in jail. This is in a way like might plays a role, but it's not a might makes right argument. Like I'm
Yeah, it's not
saying,
saying he's not saying it's wrong because there's
No.
a state that
So specifically talking about French and English are the dominant languages because of the colonial history. So yeah, I totally grant, and Chief Potleaf said this. People should learn French or English, right? So we totally grant that you should learn the language that's used closer to internationally. But that's not sufficient to say that the native language ought not be taught.
so here's my reason for why it ought not be taught. If there's no reason to teach it, then you're just spending resources for no reason. So there's going to be a huge amount of
No,
resources.
there's plenty of reasons. There's plenty of reasons to learn a language, though.
Okay,
And
there
again,
there
and
aren't
then now
plenty
if
of reasons
then
to
if
learn a very small language like this.
and then
that's
we're
what I'm
right
asking
back
for. Like, why should we
exactly.
why should we
And then
teach
we're
for
right
culture?
back to where I started, because now we can only learn the languages that were sufficiently shitty in the past to colonize the world, right?
Correct. Yes, but that doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I don't see
I want
why
to
that
improve.
matters.
I want to improve people's lives now, not like turn back history.
So Chief Potleaf, so you would be okay with us getting rid of the reservations as a legal entity, and then organically the culture going away.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it would go away organically. At least not like in the short
Okay,
term.
that's fine. So, well, yeah, sure. So if they want to keep their
even under right now, where the culture is still being oppressed and like there's a lot of incentives to, for example, not learn your language. There is still a massive resurgence of the language simply because it is no longer like criminally cracked down upon.
I mean, they're in their own communities, so they're not really assimilated. So obviously, a culture that isn't assimilated, they're going to have resurgences of things like language or whatever kind of cultural element of it. Right? So, so what I'm asking you is if we got rid of the legal reservations, in the U.S., I don't know how it works in Canada. In the U.S., that would mean that land would now be a part of the state. The state that whatever state they would be in. I'm not saying state as the whole entity, but whatever state it's in. So if it's in Oklahoma, it would be in Oklahoma. Blah blah blah. So in that case, you would be okay. Like if we got rid of the reservations as a legal entity, they weren't protected anymore under that sort of system, and then the culture organically went away.
No, but that's I don't know. This is. Well, I see that as colonialism winning. That's like, I don't know.
Oh, it's the principle thing. Okay.
Also, I can't really speak too much about the reserves south of the border.
You can't speak too much on what?
On the reserves south of the border, especially ones that aren't like a part of my nation. I guess I could speak for reserves on my nation's half of.
Yeah.
Because my nation is like split down the middle by the Canadian-U.S. border.
Wait. So you do want to get rid of the reservations as a legal entity?
Yeah, as they stand now, but I think there should still be like sovereign indigenous land.
Wait. So, okay. So what do you?
Just doesn't need to be like a reservation. You know what I mean?
As far as I understand, that's what a reservation is.
But I don't know what you mean. Can you tell me how you divide natives having sovereign land they've been granted by the state as opposed to a reservation? What's the difference? I always thought reservations meant that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, reservations aren't sovereign.
Yes, they are.
The reservation. I mean, maybe in the States, I don't know, but with the reservations here. Oh. Well, then to be honest, I don't know. Well, I mean, personally, I want like a, how do I put it? Like every last damn inch back, personally, but
Well, good
not
for you, buddy.
So how about this? How about this? So obviously you said you want every last damn inch back, right? So you want the entire geographical territory, or I guess you just want every inch back for your tribe, right?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all of yeah.
So what if all of the tribes united, like got together and like agreed to like get all of the land back, and then everybody in there got like equal democratic representation under this new system of government, and we could all just decide on it together?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so this would just be the abolition of like sovereign native land. Then this would just be everybody has the land and has equal representation under it. So this would just be like a socialist government.
Yeah.
Okay, well then we agree.
Well, okay, but until we get to that utopia in 1,000 years, what do we do about the reservations right now? That's the
Yeah.
interesting conversation.
So right now,
I can speak. I can speak for reserves in Canada. The return of Crown land to a much more democratic native setup institution. Because currently reservations are represented by a band government, which are terribly fucking corrupt and very undemocratic, and are colonial imports and are maintained by the Indian Act, which is something we've all agreed that needs to be abolished. And so we like the same communities, but represented by a much more direct democratic institution, which would be given these fucking empty swaths of land owned by the Queen, like they'd be given back, and then like there could be some economic support for industries to start up there. Because currently the only industry on my res is a gas station and a smoke shop. Oh, and there's one restaurant. So and that's pretty much it. There's no industry.
Okay, so you guys don't like elect representatives within you don't elect representatives to make decisions within your I guess reservations, right?
Well, we participate in like, so my reservation is a part of the same political federal writing as like the I don't know, like the white farmers just outside of it. And so in that case we vote for the same candidates as everyone else in our writing. But then when it comes to the band government, you only elect the chief, which typically only gets elected because like they're family members, and typically it's only from like one or two families that own the businesses, and then the chief appoints their council, which is also typically their family, and it's just super corrupt, and it's full of like, what's that word called, where like you get ahead by family connection.
Graft and nepotism.
Yeah, nepotism.
That's it. Yeah, it's rampant nepotism. I would much prefer like a system where it was like direct democratic, and then where
Oh,
like
so is
maybe
the
there'd be
structure
like,
of this?
oh, pardon?
Oh, so is the structure of this decided by like the Canadian government? It's not something you guys could change on your own. It's something you'd have to get the Canadian government's approval to change.
Oh yeah. Like it's administered by the Indian Act, which is it's like a colonial act.
Which sounds pretty yikes.
Yeah, the Indian Act is literally just like a system of segregation. Like, because it also has like a lot of legal things. Like, it's not just like reservations exist. There's a lot of, like, for example, I'm governed as a status Indian with someone with an Indian status card in my wallet. I'm governed under a different set of rules than any other Canadian citizen because of this act.
How does the set of rules differ?
There is some benefits. I'll name off the positives off the bat. I have hunting and fishing rights, which I would like to preserve. And
Oh, so wait, if you want yourself to have like an unequal standard to other people, then what's the issue with there being a different set of rules?
well, no, I'm just, well, I'd like to have these hunting and fishing things for like everybody, but like
Okay.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't like because currently we have a system where like you need to buy a tag for every deer you kill, which I don't have to do that because I'm a status Indian. So I would like
Yeah.
that just for everybody.
Oh wait, so you would want everybody to just be able to like well, if you did this, it would be unsustainable. Is what my point is. Like this would be a really really bad idea to do across the nation.
Well, it works for native people. Why? I don't
No,
know.
that's because you're a
Because
small
there are
amount of people.
fewer.
Yeah, you guys are a very very small amount of people. So like you don't have the manpower to kill off all of the animals. But if everyone started doing it, it would be disastrous.
All right. Well,
And
then
we
we
know
should
that-
implement a system with a cap on how much you can kill, but not necessarily where you have to pay for every single deer you kill. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you just want like a more egalitarian version of the existing system where it's not based on like wealth or like pay to win, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with this just because like yeah, I agree with like economic equality in general.
And also, I really have moral qualms with a colonial government telling me how and how I can and cannot hunt on like my land. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
So when you say a colonial government, you mean it was like set up through like illegitimate means?
No, like I just mean like I don't like the Canadian government saying how I cannot hunt, which is what it does for the rest of its citizens.
Okay, so
Do you like it doing that for the rest of its citizens, or?
No, not even necessarily either. Like I said, I don't agree with the tag system either which way. I mean, I don't like the Canadian government existing, period. So like,
well, like
thanks.
neither do we, but we understand for the time being we just have to deal with it. We have
Yeah.
to deal with governments existing, then we can abolish the state later.
All right, so if we're running under the current system, to be honest, I would like to have that one little like thing preserved where like
Yeah,
I
but
have hunting and fishing rights on reserve and crown land.
But here's the issue is like you're preserving a different standard for native people than you are for the rest of the country. And if you're doing that, then necessarily people are going to view you as an other, and they're going to view your interests as like distinct from theirs.
But
Well,
this
then
is under the current system.
I don't really know how to like reconcile this.
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean the thing would be to like abolish the difference in the or abolish like the existence of like a sort of like negative class in scare quotes. So give it would be the removal of like the like special privileges in regards to hunting, and also like the granting and all or the granting of like any other difference would be equalized between
Well,
the two groups.
It's not even necessarily granting privileges. It's more just I don't know. It's like how do I put it? It's like so. For example, if this rule was removed and we had the tag system just like every other Canadian, I'd say that's not removing privileges. That's like it's just like revoking freedoms.
Well,
Isn't-
that is like that's kind of what that means
Those are synonymous.
when I say it.
A privilege is a freedom that's
Yeah.
granted to you that's not granted to other people, right?
Well, like I said, I would like for like it to be more for everybody, but like under the current system, like I would rather have the separate rule than have to like pay for tags for every deer I get.
Sure, so under the current system, you can still be above the others.
I didn't even get to say like I just wanted to say that there was like one fucking positive to this act, and then we just got like caught up on that.
Okay, good.
What are
What's
the
negatives?
negatives to it?
You cannot own like you can't like legally owned land on reserve. Or there's a few more. I'm trying to remember.
You can't legally own land on reserve under the
No.
act.
Yeah, like under the act.
Can other people who aren't native?
Yeah, the Ban government can sell it to them.
Okay.
There's a few other rules I haven't read up on in a while. It mainly just they're pretty like how do I put it? I don't know. They're pretty vague and not too like big, but I don't know. They have They have like I guess a little bit of make a little bit of a difference.
Esoteric. They're esoteric rules.
Yeah. Yeah, like you read through the Indian Act, you probably won't understand the fucking word it says. It's crazy. Like it's just I don't know the way it's worded. But then that's all law for the most part. But like but the main thing the Indian Act does is maintain the band system of government.
And that's like a representative democracy kind of thing.
In theory.
Okay.
In theory, the chief's supposed to represent the people.
Are there tribes that are not represented by the band council thing? Or does the band council apply to all
I might be
all
wrong on
natives?
this, but I'm pretty sure the Inuit have are classified like they're not legally classified as Indians, like how I would.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think they fall under the Indian Act.
So if they don't fall under, they don't get they don't have any they're just represented by like the regular local government or something.
No, I think they have like a different system set up for the Inuit. Because the Inuit are in a
Okay.
different situation because they're like still the majority in their homeland. Because it's
Right.
literally just the fucking Arctic. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know how
Okay.
it works. Inuits, the none of it is kind of like a mystery to me. Oh, and I guess you could say like Métis people and the native people who don't live on or like who aren't represented by a band government would just be like any other normal Canadian citizen.
Right.
I forget how that works exactly. Like at one point you stop being a status Indian.
Right. So you have to do you have to like register and give like proof of your like ancestry or something?
Yeah, it goes by blood quantums. I think it's like
Okay.
25%.
Okay. And that's like to live on the reserves at all, you have to have that.
No, I think non-band members can move to the reserve.
Okay.
But like you have to have that to be represented by the band and to I guess reap what benefits there are to being a part of it.
Right. Like the hunting and fishing memes.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
also like the social services on the reserve.
Right.